One of the biggest mistakes you can make as a dynasty owner is immediately panic selling or panic buying players after free agency. I see so many people, as soon as a deal happens, like, oh, Garrett Wilson's an instant sell. Jackson Smith and Jigba, instant sell. Let's not. Let's wait like maybe even 5 days and see what their dynasty value does and then act, because odds are if there really is a change in somebody's value after they sign or somebody else signs with their team, it's already happened when you go to try to sell that player. And so just chill out. Let's talk about Garrett Wilson for a second here. I've been chill on Garrett Wilson. This is coming from somebody who who grew a dynasty channel from scratch by trashing Justin Fields. I don't like Justin Fields. He doesn't like Justin Fields. I still don't think Garrett Wilson is a huge sell right now. And when you're looking at his market value, I don't think that the community thinks he's a huge sell either. The wide receiver 13 right now, it's exactly where he was in February, exactly where he was in January, exactly where he was in December. His value hasn't changed. He's still value adjacent next to A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Tad McMillan, Ladd McConkey, Marvin Harrison Jr., those guys. Still worth an early first. I think he should be. And I recently made a trade for Garrett Wilson in one of my leagues. It was one of the only trades I've made so far this month just because I've been so busy. But I wanted to share with you the trade and kind of get your thoughts on it. This was a team where I won the championship last year. My roster was decent, but I won the championship making a couple in-season moves. And then I decided I needed to reload. And so I got Garrett Wilson, I got Josh Downs, and I think I got Romeo Doubs as well. I sent away Jacoby Myers, James Cook, Alvin Kamara, and Calvin Ridley. Now, personally, I got this offer in my inbox, and I think it was because the guy was panic selling Garrett Wilson. I don't think he was a Fields fan at all, which, again, I'm not a Fields fan. But if you're a reload, if you're a rebuild, where, Justin Fields does have this. Do we have his contract information yet? Let's see if it's in there.
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
So let's look at this. But, again, we talked about this. $20 million a year for Justin Fields is not like money to where you can look at it and say he's absolutely going to be on the field no matter what for the Jets. And so I'm not dooming about Garrett Wilson for a couple reasons. Number one, there's no guarantee Justin Fields starts the whole year this year. Number two, actually more than two reasons. Number two, Justin Fields has supported a high-end fantasy wide receiver before. We forget this. Everybody's like, Justin Fields, we all saw what he did to X, Y, Z. We all saw what he did to DJ Moore. And I'm like, wait a second. DJ Moore, I'm pretty sure he was productive one of the years that Justin Fields was his quarterback. Am I wrong about that, Nathan?
No, it was just last year, as in 2023.
And he was the wide receiver 6 on the season?
Yes.
Okay, so wide receiver 1.
Justin Fields has a lot of weaknesses. What he can do very well is when he extends a play and he sees someone that is so wide open that you can't not see them, he'll get the ball to them if he doesn't overthrow them. And when you have a good route runner like DJ Moore, when you have a good route runner like Garrett Wilson, that generally bodes well for them. If they have more weapons around them that can kind of help spread the field out so that not everyone is literally just so hyper-focused on Garrett Wilson that he can never get any opportunity. I think with Breece Hall, I think with the rushing capability of Justin Fields, that you're still going to have opportunities for Garrett Wilson to consistently get the ball like he's been getting for the last 3 years with worse quarterback play. Justin Fields is a bad quarterback. He is better than what they've had the last 3 years. Aaron Rodgers' lateral move, technically.
I was going to say, Rodgers was decent at times last year.
Rodgers was better.
But you're even talking about Fields. One of his weaknesses is hyper-fixating on one receiver.
So
one receiver might get a lot of targets.
Because he can't make a read past his first read.
Exactly.
Your first read is going to be Garrett Wilson in this offense. And the contract situation here is 2 years, $40 million at face value. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, yay, Justin Fields is back. $30 million of that is guaranteed. He has an $8 million cap hit this year, $23 million cap hit next year. He is not locked in after that. So, again, a very as much as we make fun of the Jets for making these types of deals and going and investing in these types of players, it really is like in a market where there was not really many better options unless they decided to trade up in the draft and draft one of the top quarterback options. There wasn't much better than this for the price that they would have to pay. And Justin Fields on this contract is incredibly cheap. So,
and, the other thing about contracts that we're not talking about even a little bit is that Garrett Wilson is in the last year of his rookie deal in 2025. And so we're talking about maybe, again, this is why for reloads and rebuilds, this is actually a good trade target right now. That's why I took him on as a reload. I wanted to reload my value. I could still contend in that league. I just gave up a lot of running back production. Yep. Garrett Wilson, this might be a 1 year thing for him no matter what, whether it's Justin Fields last 1 year or Garrett Wilson last 1 year and he demands a trade. One of the two things might happen. So Garrett Wilson, ultimate verdict on Garrett Wilson, I'm not panicking on him. We talk about this like Garrett Wilson just got a huge QB downgrade. Like he's had these amazing QBs these last couple of years. And sure, maybe Rodgers to Fields is a downgrade. I'll give you that. But who was his quarterback before that? And he is still a wide receiver 2. And he's only 24. I'm not panicking on Garrett Wilson. I think he's a hold, and I think in some situations he can end up being a buy if people are panic selling because of Justin Fields.
So JSN is going to be our next guy here. I want to talk about another receiver where the situation changed a little bit. I think it looks more drastic because of a lot of the movement that's been happening in Seattle than what the ultimate result's going to be from like a production upside opportunity perspective for JSN. Really, I'm going to tell you the verdict just straight out the gate because I don't want it to get confuzzled or mixed up or confused or anything while I'm talking about all the elements that go into this. I think JSN is a hold, borderline buy, based off of what's come out of the Cooper Kupp signing and what people have been saying immediately upon the signing. Again, we might not see that actual value dip happen. It might just be immediate, like first thoughts, panic from people that see another wide receiver going into that room. DK just left that offense, and DK is more productive than Cooper Kupp is because Cooper Kupp for the last 4 years has not eclipsed 1,000 yards because Cooper Kupp cannot stay healthy last 3 years. Cooper Kupp is a 31, 32-year-old wide receiver, and while I think he's a decent signing for Seattle, number one, I didn't expect it. I think it's a fine signing if they want to take that shot at $50 million. It's like $7 million worse than $7 million cheaper than Chris Godwin, who also has an injury history and is 30 years old as well. I think the market was really set by that signing this offseason. But with JSN specifically, we just saw him produce as a wide receiver 1 with DK and Tyler Lockett in the same offense. He took over both of those guys. He took command of that room and dominated it, really. I think that, and again, this is not just me and my personal thinking and my opinion. I mean, when you're thinking about it schematically, I think there are a lot of examples that you could look to in the NFL that aren't just in Seattle, that you even saw last year with an aging wide receiver like Stephon Diggs, who showed significant signs of regression in his last season in Buffalo. Then he goes to Houston and he plays an exclusive slot wide receiver role and is very effective that way. Nico Collins is obviously able to be incredibly productive in that situation alongside Stephon Diggs. They both maintain production while they're on the same field together. Again, we only saw this in like a month-long sample size because Diggs ended up going down with the ACL. But you saw the idea, you saw the thought process there. I think this is the exact same thing in Seattle. I think Cooper Kupp is going to be more specialized in his role as he gets older and as he gets, just more fragile, since he has been for the last few years. And you're going to see him probably play the slot role, and that's going to move JSN to the outside, where he's going to get a lot more opportunities downfield. Doesn't mean he's going to be a field stretcher. It just means he's going to play your stereotypical alpha, kind of like X wide receiver role. And yeah, he's able to be versatile. He can line up in the slot. He can line up on the outside. He can really line up anywhere, but he specializes on the outside. That's where most of his successful route running took place last year, and that's where he dominated. I think Cooper Kupp, if anything, is going to help this, and they intended to replace DK Metcalf with a wide receiver anyways. Cooper Kupp is not DK Metcalf. They don't play the same role. They could still draft a Trey Harris in the NFL draft. Who knows? All I know is that if you're really going to short Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's an up-and-coming 23-year-old cornerstone wide receiver, for a 32-year-old, dare I say, washed-up wide receiver in Cooper Kupp, who hasn't done anything consistently for the last 3 seasons, I think it's jumping the gun a little bit, and I think JSN is going to be totally fine there. Not to mention Sam Darnold. On the flip side, you've got the Sam Darnold concerns. Is he going to be able to sustain the level of success that he had at Minnesota? If I were a betting man, I'd say no. I don't think he's going to sustain the success that he had in Minnesota. I don't think he's going to carry Seattle to a 14-3 season and have a quarterback 1 finish and look pretty dang good and be like comeback player of the year caliber. I don't think that's going to be the case. If he is 80% of what he was in Minnesota and Seattle goes 9-8, 8-9, 10-7, I don't really care, whatever, JSN is going to remain productive. Geno Smith and Sam Darnold, really from a talent perspective, from a limitations perspective, are very, very similar assets, similar quarterback talents at the NFL level, and they're going to struggle very similarly under pressure. Geno Smith turned the ball over quite a bit last year. JSN was still productive, and so was DK. Sam Darnold, when he's under pressure, can get a little flustered and turn the ball over. He can also really help those assets produce in that offense because he can sling the ball and he can push it downfield. So let's not stress too much about JSN.
We've been giving JSN all off season as buys to people depending on your dynasty team. All these are team dependent, right? Garrett Wilson, again, I bought him on a reload because I had a 1-year reload archetype assigned to my team. I said I might go buy Garrett Wilson. And so I do think you need to know what the plan is for your team to know whether you should buy or sell some of these guys that, in free agency, their values have changed a lot. Flockfantasy.com/domain. We can do a team blueprint for you. You get a free one with the annual Motherflocker tier with code domain. You also get our rookie draft guide. You get our Discord access. This is one of the best Discords out there. And you get a ton of other stuff. All the site tools, trade calculator, rankings, everything, an infinite blueprint along with that, which is an update on your blueprint that we do for you for free with the annual Motherflocker tier every single month. So we can give you a plan for your dynasty team, tell you what your team archetype is, and then give you some trades and which guys here you should be targeting. So that's flockfantasy.com/domain. Make sure you use code domain to unlock those things. But let's go to DK. DK, really the main thing that stands out to me here. I think the thing that really caught my eye with DK was the amount of financial commitment that the Steelers gave him. Like, I knew DK was going to go somewhere and probably get paid, but 4 years, $132 million, an average annual salary of $33 million. That's a pretty big contract.
Have the guarantees come out yet?
Not yet. I don't have any of the guarantees yet.
That would have been nice.
But regardless, I do think he's under contract for at least 4 years. I mean, like, he is set to potentially finish his career in Pittsburgh. So, the big question with DK, obviously people are questioning the fit with George Pickens, and I think most people are saying that George Pickens takes a hit here. If anybody takes a hit, I agree it would be George Pickens because DK Metcalf is just a better wide receiver. Not to mention DK Metcalf has been more consistently fantasy productive than George Pickens, even though DK had, his productive season before George Pickens was in the NFL.
That's why we said DK was a buy going in the 7th round of our dynasty startups.
And it's ugly, I think. I think it's ugly because, he just turned 27. He goes to a situation where you don't know who the quarterback there is going to be. Mm-hmm. Right now it's Russell Wilson, and it wasn't great last year. Although George Pickens was productive at times, you also question the fit between George Pickens and DK Metcalf. And so I don't blame you for that. I do think with DK, looking at his value, I think when you're talking about investing in DK from a dynasty fantasy football perspective, he probably didn't get the post-free agency signing bump that we thought he was going to get. He's gotten a little bit of a bump, but he's mostly maintained his value. And so buying DK, like we've said to, this offseason, hasn't turned sour at all. In fact, for him to maintain his value after, kind of an icky landing spot, I think it sets him up to get a value increase when they do secure a quarterback that isn't Russell Wilson, depending on who they get. If they get Aaron Rodgers, I think that would be a pretty big deal for DK
He's already increased more than I would have expected with that landing spot, and it's because of that contract extension. Like you said, the Rodgers situation is something that we're going to want to monitor closely. If I were to bet, I would say that Pittsburgh is where Rodgers ends up landing.
I would think so too. I don't think it's going to be Minnesota. It's probably by this time this video has come out, he's probably already signed with Minnesota or something. So
Minnesota would be hilarious. Well, I just want it for
the prophecy.
Yes.
So the thing is about DK Metcalf is there's a pretty big discrepancy in his value on crowdsourced rankings like Keep Trade Cut, and then looking at our live league ADP, which is now an average of 6 of our domain live league drafts, real money drafts. In Keep Trade Cut, you've got him going in the late 5th round. He's going in the early 7th in our actual real money drafts.
Well, don't look at the average. A lot of those drafts were before the move.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, even before then, the earliest he's gone is 70, and so that's 10 spots lower than what community rankings would have him at. Yeah. And so with DK, I don't think his price that you're seeing
a full round bump, though,
is actually his real price, and I don't think that DK is somebody that I'm shying away from. I still think the whole point of buying DK was at this price. I'm just going to let him die on my roster because you're telling me he doesn't have 3 more productive years in him. We play Dynasty in 3-year outlooks, and DK Metcalf on my team for 3 more years, I feel fairly comfortable with, especially as a flex option. And right now, when you're talking about where he's ranked in Dynasty from a wide receiver standpoint, he's being ranked as, again, depending on where you're looking, either a low-end wide receiver 2 or a high-end wide receiver 3. And at the point where I can get DK Metcalf for high-end wide receiver 3 prices in Dynasty, I'm comfortable with him, especially in shallower leagues where upside is going to be more important. I'm comfortable DK Metcalf being that wide receiver 3 for my team, or again, first flex option, because I do think he's going to go somewhere and he is going to be the number one option, especially with the financial commitment he just got from the Steelers. DK is not somebody that I'm saying, okay, now we got our bump, let's sell. At this point, I think you just hold him. I think you take the production from DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I think hold is a good move right now. I agree that the hard buy window is definitely closed, in my opinion, because of that contract insulation and because of the anticipation of them getting a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. But I still think that he's a good guy to own on your roster. Next guy that we're going to have here is Geno Smith. Already alluded to him moving, obviously, from Seattle to the Raiders. I do think this is interesting. So far, to date, as of Friday, March 14th at 5:05 p.m. Eastern, Geno Smith has not signed an extension with the Raiders. They've just taken on his existing contract, and they paid a third-round pick for that. First of all, that was way more than I ever would have expected anyone to pay for Geno Smith in a trade with Seattle. That's why I thought that Geno was going to stay in Seattle for the next year or two. Never expected anyone would pay a third-round pick. That's pretty significant. And he's got a cap hit of $31 million this year. Again, this is all assuming that the Raiders don't extend him. There's still a potential that they, tack another year or two on that deal with an opt-out after 2026. It's very possible. But as it stands at the moment, Geno is not the long-term option for the Raiders, and I don't think anyone expected, even with a third-round pick move, even with them giving away a third, I don't think anyone expects Geno to be the long-term option for the Raiders. I think this is a bridge quarterback. This is a better version of Gardner Minshew, which was expected to be their bridge quarterback for a couple of seasons, and that whole situation was awful with Antonio Pierce last year, that they just need stability at the quarterback position, and Geno Smith, I think, can provide that for at least a season. Pete Carroll is really, in a lot of ways, a bridge head coach. They're in a transition phase right now, the Raiders are. You've got a tenth of that ownership right now that's going to Tom Brady. He's very heavily involved in a lot of the decision-making behind the scenes that they're doing. I think he is prioritizing stability in that organization. And again, with this sort of situation, when you're looking at the outlook for Geno Smith long-term, I don't think it really changes. I really don't. Now, what are the implications for everyone on that offense? I think it's much more positive than what you had previously, and that's what I really want to highlight here. Geno Smith, if you're a team that has two solid quarterbacks and you need a cheap third option as a well-rounded team that's looking to contend heading into 2025, go get him for cheap as a throw-in when you're trading. I don't think anyone's looking at Geno being a long-term guy. Brock Bowers, I think, is going to benefit from this. I really do think he will. Geno will be able to spread the ball out more, and ideally, you're going to want to see that happen. But again, Brock Bowers can be that security blanket that really Geno never really had in Seattle. I mean, talk about the offensive line situations and Geno being able to extend plays, and he would dump the ball off when he had to, when he was under pressure. He threw a lot of interceptions last year, and a lot of that was trying to make something out of nothing. Brock Bowers can be that security blanket, and he is going to be the most reliable player on that field. In my opinion, if they draft a wide receiver in this year's draft, I think Bowers is still their top option. If they go and they trade for someone, unless it's like T. Higgins, which is not going to happen, Brock Bowers is going to be the top option there. I think the target volume, I think the opportunity, I think everything there indicates that Bowers and his usage is not going to go down really at all. 153 targets, I wouldn't be shocked if he does that again as a second-year tight end. If they draft a running back, all the better for Brock Bowers again. I don't think it really matters what they do offensively. Anything is going to help Bowers, because the one disadvantage that you have as a second-year tight end when you just set all the records as a rookie is that everyone knows you're a threat now. So you actually have to be a primary focus when you've got the defensive opponents, looking at the best playmakers in that offense. Bowers is going to be number one. If they get another weapon in there at the running back position, at the wide receiver position, if anything, it'll help them.
Let's talk about Breece Hall. A lot of you guys are asking about Breece Hall and how Justin Fields as a dual threat QB would affect Breece Hall's fantasy production. A lot of people are making the argument, okay, yeah, this is going to help him. A lot of people I've heard say, yeah, Justin Fields never checks the ball down. Well, fact of the matter is, Justin Fields in 2023 had a 17.3% check down rate, which was third highest among all QBs with 150 or more pass attempts. I saw that on Twitter. And so when in 2022 you were looking at, Justin Fields and his check down rate was extremely low. I think it was 5% or something like that. In 2023 and 2024, it's jumped up pretty significantly, and he's played with pretty subpar running backs, right? He played with Khalil Herbert in his last year with the Bears, and he played with Najee last year, and Jalen Warren obviously was hurt for part of the year, but mostly Najee. And so not really, the best receiving backs. Now, Breece Hall, obviously, he led the league in receiving 2 years ago. Last year, he was, I think, third in the league in targets. And so he's somebody who's made his, name and made his production on being a receiving back. When you're looking at his dynasty value right now, a lot of people, I think, would have expected, you said right at the beginning of this video, you think his value's gone up. It has not gone up. It has slightly dipped down. Now, he's still the running back 6 in dynasty. He's still being drafted around guys, Garrett Wilson, A.J. Brown, Devon Achane, Kyler Murray, Bucky Irving. When you're looking at our ADP, though, and where he might actually be going, he's going a little bit lower than this. Actually, he's going really about half a round lower than what he says, going around the 104. T. Higgins, Rome Odunze, Bucky Irving, Baker Mayfield, Michael Penix, guys like that. Really what we've been telling people to do with Breece Hall on almost every single team blueprint is down tier or pivot. And so I think by default we've had Breece Hall as a soft sell. Since his value hasn't changed at all, I'm inclined to just keep him as a soft sell. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Because here's the thing: if his value had just completely dipped, and gone in the dumpster, then I would probably be telling you to hold him, right? I mean, because you don't want to sell low when he's losing a ton of market value. I'm not confident in buying him right now. We haven't been all offseason just because with Breece. It wasn't great last year for Breece from a fantasy production standpoint, but also just on the field. And I know the situation sucks. He was the running back 16 though in 16 games, and a lot of it was because he got less attempts than he did in 2023. He got 20 less targets. He got 20 less receptions. He got 100 less receiving yards, all while having only one less touchdown on the year. And so he just straight up, dipped in efficiency a little bit. He averaged 4.1 yards per carry, which is still efficient, not as efficient as his 5.7 yards per carry his first year and 4.46 yards per carry his second year. So he's lost a little bit of efficiency. The situation there isn't great. Justin Fields isn't great. I do think Breece Hall can still be productive. And so I think he's somebody that if you have him on your team, you shop him. If you can get a good deal for him, a good pivot or a good down tier to guys like Josh Jacobs, even maybe guys like Chuba Hubbard, Chase Brown, depending on what your team build is like. If you can do that, then sure. Otherwise, again, the whole point of having him as a soft sell is that if you can't really get anything of worth for him, you just hold him on your team. And there are going to be leagues where he's just straight up undervalued, and I think on those leagues you just hold him. But again, in general, we've been saying Breece is a soft sell. We've been giving that advice on blueprints. His value didn't really change after this, and so I'm not any more excited or concerned about Breece Hall than I was. I think he can still be productive, but I still think there are a lot of the same questions that we had about Breece Hall before remain, even with Justin Fields being the quarterback there. Yeah,
so I think one of the most low-key nice signings that I liked to see was Davante Adams to the Rams. Adams is just straight up going to be one of the cheapest veteran productive wide receivers that you're going to be able to get. And he has seen a little bit of a value increase since the announcement that he's going to go to the Rams. And honestly, I have no issue with it. And still at wide receiver 47 prices, when he's value adjacent to guys like Cortland Sutton, Michael Pittman, Deebo Samuel, I think that's right where he should be valued. This is a guy that he, again, has less injury questions than a guy like Cooper Kupp, who the Rams intentionally decided to move on from because of, I would say, that specific reason. Adams is 32 years old, and he still looks like he's in his prime. After the debacle that was the experiment with the Raiders for the last couple of years and the half of the 2024 season, after that stretch, you look at week 9 on 22, 9, 13, 17, 25, 42, 19, 9, and 20 points. That's with Garrett Wilson finishing as a wide receiver 1 as well. Garrett Wilson finished as a wide receiver 10 overall. Adams, missing 3 games on the season, still in total points in PPR formats last year, finished as the wide receiver 11. He looked like he hadn't even lost a step. Now you're going into a situation that's literally built for him. Adams at this point in his career, I think, functions perfectly as a wide receiver too. Puka Nacua could not be better for Davante Adams. He couldn't be. Matt Stafford could not be better for Davante Adams at this point in his career. Sean McVay could not be better for Davante Adams at this point in his career. That doesn't mean I'm going to go balls to the wall for every single team ever to go invest in Davante Adams right now. He's 32 years old. He's still risky. We don't have all the contract information right now. But as it stands at Adams' price, again, I'll say this. He is one of the cheapest high production upside wide receivers that you can invest in right now. He's essentially risk-free because of what you have to give up to go acquire him if you're a contending team. So I would say that Davante Adams is a conditional buy at the moment.
That's exactly where I have him as well. Let's wrap it up with Chris Godwin. I'm not going to lie to you. I was pretty convinced that Chris Godwin's had some kind of ligament damage, and apparently he doesn't. I was just misinformed on that one.
That was your Mandela effect.
It was my Mandela effect. I don't know why I thought that. And so it was just a dislocation. And that does bode, I think, a lot better for Godwin than another ligament tear would be, since he already has a history of that. And I think the rehab gets even harder after you've done that multiple times. With Godwin getting as big of a deal as he has, where is he going right now? I'm pretty sure he's going like in the 9th round of these Dynasty startup drafts. In ours, he's going the late 8th. Next to like Josh Downs, Keon Coleman, Jaden Reed, Alvin Kamara. There are some running backs in this range I think I would, happily pivot from Chris Godwin too. But I think for the most part, I think you can say that on a contending team, Chris Godwin's not a bad guy to own. So I would say hold by here. I don't know if I would say really I'm going to go out and trade for Chris Godwin a lot. But on the rosters where I have him, I am pleasantly surprised that he got the contract that he did, remained in that situation, which I think is a great situation for him, and I'm holding him. I'm not even thinking about moving him. I'm thinking about him as a boost to my contending teams next year. He's seen a pretty significant value spike.
Yeah, again, that was already a value win if you bought Chris Godwin before this contract, which, again, we saw the contract extension coming, not necessarily in Tampa. We thought it was going to be somewhere else, but regardless, it didn't matter where his contract extension was going to be. Small value win already. Boom.
And that's what you love. And I think now, again, I'm just leaning hold for Chris Godwin. So you'll notice, we didn't really have anybody on this video that was like a sell besides Breece. And Breece is like a soft sell. Like, it's conditional sell. I think
70% of these guys being holds is just another reason why a lot of these free agency moves, a lot of the panic that you're going to see, panic buy, panic sell immediately after these moves. We're trying to tell you guys to keep your head above the waves a little bit. And again, a lot of these situations aren't even set in stone because we only have half of the information we need heading into the NFL draft, right? The NFL draft is going to shake things up all over again. Free agency just opened up this past weekend. Plenty of moves can still be made. Pickens can still be dealt. T. Higgins can still sign an extension with the Bugles, which would change that entire outlook as well. Yeah. So again, there's still plenty of things that have yet to be seen. We're not going to have really the full picture until June.
Yeah. So hopefully, if you own some of these players, you're not panicking on any of them. I don't think there's a panic button for any of these guys. I really think this was more of a reshuffle more than anything. And I think the rookie draft will tell us a lot. So make sure you drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed as well. Help us hit our goal of 250 Motherflockers added over on the Flock site. Can be monthly, can be annual. We're just trying to get people introduced to the community. Our goal is 250. We're doing giveaways, a free blueprint every single day over on the Flock site. Not to mention our live streams. We're doing a bunch of stuff. And if we do hit our goal, we are going to take the show on the road for draft weekend, do a draft weekend extravaganza somewhere cool, destination we don't know yet, if we hit it. And, we'll be live all weekend. We'll be doing a lot of videos, all kinds of stuff. And Nathan will get cornrows if we hit our goal. So help us to hit our goal. We're halfway through March. We're about halfway to our goal, so we could really appreciate your help. But we do appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you so much, and we'll see you later.